Chapter 17 of Ramayana's Aranyakanda, the killing of Maricha. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. After giving the instructions to Lakshmana, Rama set out to get the deer for Sita. He strapped the sword to his waist. The quiver was on his shoulder, and his bow with the three beautiful bends in it was in his hand. He looked at Sita and she was smiling with happiness. Her Rama would get the deer for her. She was sure of it. Rama looked around and the deer was just beyond his reach. It began to prance about and Rama followed it with casual steps. After some distance had been covered, the deer seemed again to come within his grasp, but in the end it eluded him. It was an exasperating chase since the deer was playing a game with Rama, a most tantalizing game. Suddenly, like a streak of lightning, it would appear before him, and turning its beautiful neck, it would look at him with terror in its eyes. At other times, it would come near enough as though exhausted by running about so much. It would disappear into the dense forest and again appear, and the glimpse made Rama impatient. Like the moon which is seen in the sky and is hidden by the clouds scuttling across the sky, the deer was seen and unseen by Rama. Before long, Rama realized that he had come a great distance from the ashrama. He was now getting angry. His impatience had turned into anger. He stood for a while on the grassy land and the deer appeared suddenly in front of him. He rushed towards it and the animal fled in panic. Rama decided to kill it as soon as it came within his sight once again. Rama's anger knew no bounds now. He took an arrow out of his quiver and fixed it to his bowstring. He pulled the string to the utmost stretch and invoking the astra of Brahma, he dispatched it towards the deer. Spitting fire like a shooting star, the astra entered the body of the deer and split it into two. Maricha made a hideous noise and fell to the ground. No longer able to keep up his guise, he fell on the ground and Rama saw his hideous form. He told himself, "So Lakshmana was right. This is Maricha, and my brother was astute enough to recognize him at once. I was not able to do so." Maricha in the meantime was dead. While his life was fast ebbing away from him, as per the instructions given to him by Ravana, he shouted, "Ha, Sita, ha, Lakshmana," in a voice very like Rama's, and the next moment he was dead. Jai Sita Ramar Panamastu. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tatulyam Ramanama Varanane. Jai Shri Ram. Chapter 17, Part 2 of Ramayana's Aranyakanda, the killing of Maricha. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Rama was intrigued by his dying words. He was worried about the safety of Sita. He was certain that some mischief was afoot. Again and again he praised the insight of his Lakshmana, and he feared that something terrible was about to happen. He saw now that he had been deliberately lured away far, very far from the ashrama. But Lakshmana was there to guard Sita. That was the comforting thought. But still his mind was full of misgivings. He thought, Maricha had some reason for shouting out like that. He made it sound as though I was calling out in agony. Sita must have heard it and she will be distraught with grief, thinking that I am in danger. I do not know what Lakshmana will do now. I hope they are not taken in by this deceptive cry of Maricha. Try as he might, Rama could not shed the uneasiness which was troubling him. He walked back towards Janasthana in a hurry. He tried to walk as fast as he could, and he realized that he was quite far away from the ashrama. Sita heard the pathetic shout which Maricha had set up, and she was convinced that Rama was in danger, that he was in need of help. She turned her agonized eyes to Lakshmana and said, "Did you hear the cry for help which my lord has put up? My mind is full of fear, and I want you to go immediately to the assistance of your brother. He is in great trouble, or else he would not have cried out like that. I am certain he is surrounded by Rakshasas and that his life is in danger. Please hurry to his assistance at once. Save him, Lakshmana. He needs you." She was trembling with fear and her eyes were filled with tears. Lakshmana heard her, but he made no attempt to leave. He was determined to stay by her side and carry out the wishes of his brother. Sita asked him again, and still he would not move from there. Sita was angry with him and said, "Why do you stand like this? Why do you still stay when I am asking you to go? Evidently you do not love your brother, or else to remain unmoved by that cry of distress is not possible. You are not a real brother to Rama, but you are really his enemy. I now feel that you wish him dead. Your intentions about me must be evil. You are hoping to make me your wife, and with Rama out of the way, you can achieve this sinful end. I am sure that is the reason for your indifference. You are happy that this incident has taken place. You do not love your brother. I am sure of it. You are not affected at all by his call for help. How can that be possible? You must have some ulterior motive which is making you deaf to your brother's call for help." Lakshmana looked at her and spoke in a pained voice. "Sita, have you not been made aware of the prowess of Rama? No Deva, Dhanava, Pannaga, Yaksha or Rakshasa can harm that god among men. There is no one in any of the many worlds to hurt him. Rama cannot be killed in a fight. You should not talk thus. My brother has commanded me to stay by your side and guard you. I will not leave you alone here, in the ashrama. Hardly a few days back you saw with your own eyes how Rama, my brother, stood along on the ground and single-handed destroyed the army of Kara and killed him too with his chief commanders. Even as my eyes lighted on that deer, I knew that it was a Rakshasa, and I am afraid some mischief is afoot. Rama has been lured away, and it has been so contrived that we should be alarmed by the cry for help supposedly from my brother. There is, I am sure, some deep scheme, and I am afraid, very much afraid, to leave you alone here in the ashrama. Rama will be back very soon. I can assure you of that. No Rakshasa can kill him, least of all Maricha. Please possess your soul in patience and wait for your Lord. This voice we heard is the voice of that Maricha who is all Maya. He has been killed, I am sure, by Rama, and with his Maya he has faked this cry for help to confuse you. Rama has asked me not to leave you alone. He has asked me not to move away from this palace, and I have been asked to guard you very carefully. I cannot disobey Rama. I will not leave you alone. After the killing of Kara and his men, several Rakshasas must be wanting to avenge his death. I am sure this is one of their plans. Please do not be upset by these. Rama will be here very soon, and you will realize the truth of my guesses." Sita was very angry with Lakshmana. Her sorrow had made her lose all sense of proportion, and she said, "You are an Anarya. You are not fit to be called the brother of Rama. You are without any compassion, and you have decided to commit sin. You are a blot on the name of the Ikshvakus. You know that Rama is in trouble, and yet you are unconcerned. I do not set any store by your words of assurance. All these years you have managed to conceal your evil intentions, and you have pretended to be devoted to Rama. Either with a desire to take me, or because of Bharata's designs on the life of Rama, you have followed us into the forest. Let me assure you, none of your wishes will come true. neither yours nor those of the son of Kaikeyi. I will this very moment give up my life. I will not let you touch me. Lakshmana folded his palms and stood before her in a suppliant frame of mind. He said, "You are like a mother to me, since I consider Rama to be my father. You are my goddess, and I dare not talk back when you speak such sharp and wounding words. Women are prone to talk words which wound abominably, but it is not. But it is born with them, and I do not set great store by it. Your words are like narachas, which leave the bow only to kill. You are attributing sin to me, and I am sinless. I am standing firm in your presence because of the commands of my elder brother, and you think of me as a sinner. It is your womanliness which makes you talk like this. I have never known you to talk like this before. It is painful to hear your words suspecting me of the most heinous of sins. Lusting after a brother's wife? I cannot bear them any longer. I will go where my brother is. May you be safe. I beseech the Vanadevatas to guard you from mishaps. The omens do not seem to be good. I fear some calamity is threatening you, and I still feel that I should stay back and guard you. If you do not go, I will kill myself, said Sita. I will swallow poison, or I will throw myself into the blazing fire. I will make a noose and hang myself, or I will fling myself into the waters of the Godavari and kill myself. I will not let you touch me. Lakshmana was on the verge of tears. He said, I am sure I do not know what to do. You are obstinate and I am helpless. When I come back with Rama, I hope I will see you. I am hoping that no evil will befall you. Sita would not be convinced. She was like one demented. In her distraction, Sita was behaving like a country-bred woman, unacquainted with decorum. She screamed at Lakshmana and she beat her stomach like one who had lost everything. Lakshmana could bear it no longer. He stood for a while looking at her, and she would not talk to him or look at him. Finally, with great hesitation, he saluted her, and looking back often, he turned his unwilling steps away from the ashrama and walked in the direction where the cry of distress came from. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattvalyam Ramanama Varanane. Om Shri Sita Ramar Pranamast. Chapter 18 of Ramayana's Aranyakanda, Ravana in ochre robes. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunataya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Unable to bear the harsh words spoken by Sita, Lakshmana left her and went in search of Rama. He was extremely angry and his breath was coming in gasps. He could hardly control himself or his anger. He had been unwilling to go about, but he was forced to do so. Ravana had been waiting in a spot not far away from there. He had been waiting for Lakshmana to leave the ashrama. Ever since the dying voice of Maricha reached him, Ravana knew that the poor Rakshasa had been killed by Rama. He felt no compunction at all about the mishap to his uncle. Maricha had served the purpose, and it was no matter if he died now. For a while, Ravana was worried lest Lakshmana should remain in the ashrama. He was greatly relieved when he saw him leaving. Promptly he assumed the garb of a parivrajaka, a mendicant, and walked towards the ashrama of Rama. He was now wearing robes which were ochre colored, and he had an umbrella in his hand. His hair was matted, and there were wooden sandals on his feet. He bore a staff on his shoulder, and in his hand he held a kamandalu. He walked fast towards Sita. Sita was alone without the protection of the brothers, and he now approached her. It was like the dark night nearing the evening when it is bereft of the sun and the moon. Rama came to the Ravana came to the doorway of the ashrama and he saw Sita. He looked at Sita as Angaraka would the star Rohini. His eyes were hungry and impatient. The very trees in Janasthana held their breath. The air did not move. So appalling was the crime which he was now contemplating that nature held her breath and wept in silence. Ravana was not able to conceal the redness in his eyes, and the river Godavari flowed softly, scared of his angry looks. Ravana stood at the doorway waiting for Sita to appear. Slowly, he walked nearer and stood very near the entrance of the ashrama. Like a well, deceptive because it is covered with grass, Ravana, dressed in the garb of a sannyasi, stood at the doorway of the ashrama, and then he saw Sita. He stood as though he were paralyzed. So bewitching was her beauty. Her face was like the moon in its charm, and her teeth could be seen gleaming white between her lips. Wide and large, her eyes were like the petals of a white lotus, and her beauty was unearthly. Dressed in yellow silk, she stood alone in the ashrama, and Ravana feasted his eyes on this woman who was much more lovely and captivating than he had imagined. He thought that she was the most beautiful woman in all the three worlds. He thought her to be Lakshmi, who had abandoned the lotus and come down to the earth to beautify it. She was beautiful, unbelievably beautiful, and stricken as he was by the arrows of the god of love, still Ravana composed himself and, reciting verses from the Vedas, announced his presence to her. Hearing someone at the doorway, Sita came out and saw the sannyasi and saluted him. He saw that she was alone and he asked her, "Who may you be? Who lives alone in the forest, alone in this ashrama? You are very beautiful, fair like molten gold. Your gold-colored silk enhances your charm. Your charm makes me think of a lotus pond filled with lotuses. Are you Parvati by any chance, who has thought of wandering at will in the forest? Are you Sachi Devi, Lakshmi? Are you the earth who has assumed a form? Are you Rati, the bride of God of love, or do you happen to be an Apsara? Your teeth are captivating. They are like pearls strung together and they glisten like pearls. What lovely eyes! Your dark eyes hold magic in them, and they are so guileless and bewitching. As for your form, it is perfectly made. What divine hands sculptured your lovely breasts? Your smile, your teeth, your eyes, your face are all so beautiful. They have captivated me. I am like a river whose banks are eaten up by the flood in the river. Your waist, which is so slim, I can hold it in one hand. What long and beautiful hair you have! You are not a woman from the heavens, nor are you a Gandharva damsel. I have never seen the like of you before. I am dumbfounded by so much beauty. Your youth and your dwelling in this forest are intriguing. This place is infested with Rakshasas, and it is not meet that you should live here alone. Go back to where you came from. You should grace the palace of a prince, and peacocks and parrots should keep you company on the terraces of the palace gardens. Tell me who you are. This is not a favorite place of the celestials. You are not one of them. How is it possible for you to dwell in the midst of cruel animals in this forest without being afraid of them? Who are you? To whom do you belong? Why have you come here? This fearful Dandaka is not the place for you. Why have you come here? I am full of curiosity. Ravana's words were embarrassing to Sita, but she thought that he was an elderly man, a sannyasi, who was genuinely concerned about her, and she entertained him in the usual way a guest should be. She offered a dharba seat to him and asked him to sit down. She had no doubt that he was one of the passing sannyasi who had lost his way. He was, to her, a Brahmin, a sannyasi who had come as a wanderer and had come upon their ashrama by chance. Ravana was watching her every movement with hungry eyes, and he decided to abduct her at once, and he made up his mind to bring about his own ruin. Again and again, Sita would look towards the doorway, waiting for the coming of her Rama with Lakshmana. But they did not come. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tatulyam Ramanama Varanane. Om Shri Sita Ramarpanamast. Chapter 18, Part 2 of Ramayana's Aranyakanda, Ravana in ochre robes. Shri Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Ravana was watching her every movement with hungry eyes, and he decided to abduct her at once, and he made up his mind to bring about his own ruin. Again and again, Sita would look towards the doorway, waiting for the coming of her Rama with Lakshmana. But that did not come. She thought to herself, when I am eaten up with worry about Rama, this guest has come here. It is my duty to pay him respect and to entertain him, or else, who knows, he may curse me. I will have to answer his questions. She said, I am the daughter of Janaka, the king of Mithila. I am the wife of Rama and my name is Sita. I live with my husband in the midst of comfort while I was in Ayodhya, the city of Ikshvakus. The king Dasharatha, my husband's father, decided to crown him as Yuvaraja. But his other mother, Kaikeyi by name, did not approve, and she wanted her son to be crowned, and she desired that my husband should be banished to Dandaka. The king had to agree, and my husband has come to Dandaka. The name Rama is well known in all the three worlds. He is the image of Dharma, and to him truth is the utmost religion. With him came his brother Lakshmana, who is an equally powerful warrior. I accompanied Rama since I cannot live without him, nor he without me. We have been living in this forest for a long time now. If you are so inclined, please wait for Rama. He will come back soon. Please let me know your name and the Gotra to which your honored self belongs. She stood respectfully before him. Ravana said, Sita, you must have heard about a Rakshasa by name Ravana. The three worlds live in fear of him. His name spells terror for them all. I am that Ravana. Oh, you lovely women, ever since I set my eyes on you, ever since they lighted on your beautiful face, I have not been able to think of anything else. I have forgotten that I have other wives. Come with me, Sita, and be my wife. My city is named Lanka. It is surrounded on all sides by the sea, and it is situated on top of a hill. Come with me and you can be happy wandering around in the beautiful gardens which are many in my palace. Cast away this forest life and come with me and be happy. Sita was more angry than frightened. She was horrified by the words of Ravana and said, Listen to me. I love my husband. Rama is everything to me. He is the noblest of all beings, and you do not know anything about him. He is as firm as the Himavan and as deep and calm as the ocean. He is the home of all virtues and his purity itself. How can you have the audacity to ask me to be your wife? I am like a lioness and you are a jackal desiring me. I am unattainable even as the glory of the sun. Do not dare to talk like this to me. You do not realize what a dangerous desire this is. It is like trying to pull the fangs from the mouth of a dread snake with your bare hands, like trying to live after having quaffed a draught of Kalakutta. You are trying to touch your eyes with a needle point. Touch the edge of a sword with your tongue. Do not dream of sin and such magnitude. If you say that you want to possess me, it is like trying to gather fire in your upper cloth and to imagine that it will not burn the cloth. Give up these sinful thoughts and go away from here before my husband comes and kills you. She spoke valiantly, but her mind was full of fear. She was trembling like a plantain tree caught in a strong gale, and she stood staring at the ground. Ravana, who was like Yama himself, saw her fear and spoke to her about how strong he was, and he bragged about his prowess. He told her that he was far superior to Rama in strength and in wealth and in beauty. In short, in every way, he was better than Rama. He said, "You know nothing about me. I am the son of the noble Vishravas, and my brother is Kubera, whom I defeated in a duel. He has given up his city and he has to go and live on the top of the Kailasa peak because of me. I have with me his chariot by name Pushpaka, which will fly in the air. The Devas, led by Indra, run away if they hear that I am in the vicinity of the heavens. The god of wind Vayu dares not blow hard when I am around, and the sun becomes cool lest I should be offended by his hot rays. The very trees do not move even a leaf because of their fear of me. The rivers halt in their course if I so desire. My Lanka is beautiful as the city Amaravati, the city of Indra. Come with me and live happily in this city of mine. Forget this mere man who is called Rama. Celestial pleasures will be yours if you come with me. You will be queen of my entire harem. Look how your Rama has come to the forest. If his father does an unjust act, the son does not have to obey him. Your Rama has not courage enough to defy his father, but agrees to do as he is told. Do you call that Vela? I do not. What is the use of being the spouse of one who has lost his kingdom and lives in the forest like a sannyasi? You are too beautiful to be wasted on that man. Do not refuse me and my love for you. Consider that it is your good fortune that I have come here to rescue you from a life of hardihood in the forest with Rama, who is not fit enough to fight with me." Sita was unconscious of the danger that was threatening her. She only knew that her Rama was being insulted by this Rakshasa, and she said, "You say that Kubera is your brother? You are born in the great family of Vishravas, and so you should be righteous. How can a son born of a noble man behave as you do? How can you talk to Rama's wife thus? You are thoughtless, and you will be destroyed if you pursue this sinfulness. You may be able to leave after taking Sachi as captive, but not if you do so with Rama's wife. I am warning you that Rama's arrows will split your chest if he sees you now. You cannot escape death at his hands." Ravana clapped his hands together in anger. He shed the guise of a sannyasi which he had donned, and his eyes had now become tawny with anger. He stood staring at Sita for a moment and said, "Once again, I am telling you, listen to my words and be my wife willingly. Accept my life, accept my love, and I promise you I will never once displease you. Forget this man and turn your eyes to me. He is far inferior to me. He does not claim the respect of the world. Because his father asked him to, he has given up his chance of ruling a kingdom. I am sure he is stupid. He has nothing to boast of, neither a kingdom, nor friends, nor any hope of regaining his land. Such a frustrated man is not good enough for you, and still you persist in this foolish love for this undeserving man." She spoke not a word, and her fear became greater. She saw the Rakshasa Ravana in his true form, and he was fearful to look at. Ravana knew that time was running short, and he also realized that Sita was not listening to his words. Spurred by fate, by death, Ravana approached Sita and he dragged her towards himself. With his left hand, he caught hold of her long hair, and with his right, he lifted her up, placing his hands under her thighs. The Vanadevatas trembled at the sight of Ravana, who was like death incarnate. No one dared to stay near him. The chariot, endowed with magic powers, appeared from nowhere, and Ravana entered the chariot, placing Sita on his lap. Sita, the beloved wife of Rama, was being carried away by Ravana. She called out, "Rama, Rama!" In vain. Rama did not hear her. The chariot rose up in the sky and she was wriggling in his grasp, but he would not let her go. Sita was like one demented. She screamed out, "Lakshmana, you pure-hearted, noble brother of my Rama, this savage Rakshasa is carrying me away and you know nothing about it? Rama, I am being separated from you and I do not know what is going to happen to me." She turned to Ravana and said, "At fate's behest, you have perpetrated this crime and you will be punished for it by Rama. If you are not killed at once, it is again because of fate. Fate is like time. Even as it takes time for a field of grains to be ready for harvest, your sins have to accumulate before Rama can kill you." Sita looked at the land which was falling away from her. She saw dense areas, and these were the trees she knew and they were studded with flowers, karnikaras. She called out to them and said, "My beloved flowers, my dear Janasthana, please tell Rama that Ravana is carrying Sita away. I take leave of you." She spoke to the Vanadevatas. She was like one demented, and Ravana paid no heed to her pleadings. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tatulyam Rama Nama Vararane. Om Shri Sita Ramar Panamastu. Chapter 19 of Ramayana's Aranyakanda, Jatayu's death. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Ravana was jubilant since his plans had been carried out without a hitch, and he did not spare a thought for Maricha, who had died for his sake. He was trying to go as fast as he could. While the chariot was speeding away from Janasthana, Sita saw Jatayu perched on top of a tree. She called out to him in desperation, "Jatayu, revered sir, this Rakshasa king is carrying me away. He pretends that he is valiant, but he is a coward. He entered our ashrama when Rama and Lakshmana were not there, and he had captured me. He is armed and no one can accost him. Please tell Rama that Ravana had carried away his Sita." Sobs stopped her from speaking further. Jatayu, who had gone to sleep on top of the tree, woke up when he heard her piteous cry. He tried to talk to Ravana. He said, "Ravana, I am Jatayu and I am extremely powerful. I have been called righteous by everyone. I am telling you, this Rama is a great man and a dangerous opponent. He is the Lord of the world. You are trying to steal his wife. This is wrong act, which you are contemplating. You are a famous king and you should try to follow the right path which is indicated by the Shastras. If the king does something wrong, how can he win the respect of his subjects? You should protect women as you would your sister or your mother. Do not be impulsive and court infamy and death. Rama has not wronged you in any way, and you should not do this to him. If you think of the episode in Janasthana, it is because of Shurpanaka. She incited Khara to fight with Rama and he had to die because of his foolishness. Tell me truly, why are you acting like this? Give up this madness, else you will regret it later. A man can carry only so much burden which he is capable of carrying, and he can eat only as much as he can digest. If either of these is in excess, then the man suffers for it. Ravana, I am old and you are young. You have a chariot and you are armed, while I have none of these things. And yet, let me assure you, I will not let you take her away and watch without interfering. If you will take my advice and leave her, you will be forgiven. If, on the other hand, you insist on persisting with your sinfulness, you must fight with me first. I challenge you to fight with me first. I will, this very moment, make you lose your chariot and later your life. Ravana had not bargained for this unforeseen obstacle in his path. He was furious with the old bird which tried to bar his way. He began to fight with Jatayu, and the encounter between the Rakshasa and the bird was a glorious sight. Ravana hurt the bird with his arrows, and Jatayu was able to fight with his claws, his wings and his beak. He hurt Ravana and blood was pouring from his wounds. Jatayu was able to withstand all the arrows of Ravana. He broke the jeweled bow which Ravana held in his hand, and later his armor also. The donkeys which were yoked to Ravana's chariot were killed, and the chariot was crushed to powder. All this the bird was able to achieve with the help of his beak, wings, and claws. Ravana held Sita firmly in his arm and came down to the earth. He saw that Jatayu was now tired and weak. Ravana rose up into the skies once again, and so did Jatayu. He went near Ravana. He hurt him in several places. He tried to talk to him also. Ravana was now desperate. The valor of the old bird was amazing. He took up his sword and flashing it at Jatayu, he cut off both the wings of the bird. Jatayu had no more fight left in him, and he fell to the ground. Sita was sorely distressed at the happenings. The old bird had died, and it was because of her. She wept loudly for the old friend of Dasharatha. She extricated herself from the grip of Ravana, and running to the old bird, she covered him with her arms and wept for him. Ravana came near her and pulled her with a rough hand. She screamed, "Rama, Rama," and he would not leave her. Again he took her in his arms and placed her on his thigh. He then rose up in the sky. Nature stood still when this outrage happened. The day was now dark as night. The sun lost his lustre, and the wind stood still. There was only one happy person, and that was Brahma, the creator. He said, "What had to happen has now happened." These rishis were unhappy at the plight of Sita. The rishis were unhappy at the plight of Sita. Decked with glittering ornaments and draped in yellow silk, Sita looked like a streak of lightning against a dense, dark cloud, held as she was against the chest of the mighty Ravana. She was wearing lotuses in her hair, and they lay scattered about after falling on Ravana. Her face had lost all its glow and was like the lotus during the season when frost kills the flower. Against the dark hue of Ravana, her face was like the moon breaking through the clouds enveloping it. The flowers from her hair were falling on the ground, and they seemed to ask her to take them again. So forlorn they looked. Her anklet fell down on the earth while she was sailing in the sky, held in the arms of Ravana. The fish in the rivers seemed to sigh with sadness when Sita was carried away. The wild animals followed the shadow cast by the Rakshasa, and they were growling with anger. The deer in the forest, which had played with her so often, were now shedding tears. The Vanadevatas were terrified of Ravana, and they could not help Sita. Rama, Lakshmana, can you not hear me? Can you not come to my rescue?" shouted Sita as loudly as she could, but they were not able to hear her. They were far away. Ravana was pleased with himself. He was carrying Sita in his arms, and he did not know that he had sought out his death and was even then carrying it in his arms, thinking that it would be but a source of happiness to him. She tried to beg him to let her go. She tried to convince him that her lord would kill him if he carried her away. Thus, she spoke scathing words and she uttered angry threats, but all in vain. Ravana paid no heed to anything she said, and so they moved in the sky. She looked down and they were passing a mountain. She could discern 5 monkeys sitting on top of it. A sudden thought came to her. She quickly removed her ornaments, several of them, and she took a piece out of her upper garment. Sita tied up the jewels in the piece of silk and threw it at the monkeys and hoped that somehow, somewhere, Rama would meet them and they would tell him about her. Ravana had not noticed this and he sailed happily along without a care. The monkeys saw the beautiful woman in the arms of a Rakshasa and they saw that he was traveling southwards. They heard her crying out, Rama, Rama, Lakshmana, and they wondered who she was. Ravana went fast like an arrow released from a taut string and he travelled straight and fast towards Lanka. He crossed the sea and still he held her firmly in his left hand, knowing that she might prefer to kill herself by falling into the sea. Sita was death incarnate for him and he knew it not. He carried her into Lanka. He arrived in the city and entered his Anthapura. He kept her a captive there and he surrounded her with Rakshasis. He instructed them, without my knowledge, this woman by name Sita should not be allowed to see anyone, nor should anyone see her. Give her anything she asks for, whether it is silks or food or jewels. She has only to ask and it should be hers. He then called for 8 of his henchmen and said, You must have by now heard about the death of Khara and the end of others at Janasthana. This was because of a man named Rama. My only desire now is to avenge the death of these. Go at once to Janasthana and go armed. You should remain there and spy on the movements of Rama. I must get frequent reports as to what he is doing. Attempts should be made by you to kill him if possible. I know how valiant you are, and that is why I am sending you to Janasthana. The 8 warriors left at once for Janasthana, and Ravana was happy since he had punished Rama and he had got for himself the most beautiful women in the 3 worlds. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tatulyam Ramanama Varanane. Om Shri Ramar Padamastu. Chapter 20 of Ramayana's Aranyakanda, Sita in Ravana's city. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. After he had dispatched the spies to Janasthana, Ravana decided to go and talk to Sita. He had known many women and they had all been willing to become his paramours. They would resist him in the beginning, perhaps, but his beguiling words would win them over and they would become his in the end. This was his experience with women, and he did not think that Sita would be an exception to this rule. And again, though he had set out with a view to punish Rama by abducting Sita, Ravana had become a slave to Sita's charms. He fell in love with her and this love was burning him like a fire. He could not rest even for a moment without thinking of her. He could not be without her and he hurried to where he had kept her as captive. He saw her. She was surrounded by the Rakshasis whom he had placed there as her keepers. Sita was sunk in woe and her face was tear-stained. She was helpless and she looked like a small boat caught in a storm in a vast sea. She was like a stricken deer, hunted by a pack of dogs. Her eyes were cast down and they were veiled by her long lashes. Ravana approached her and she did not raise her head. Ravana spoke to her about the magnificent palace which would be hers if only she decided to use it. He made her look all about her. He showed her the several pillars which were beautifully wrought and terraces which decorated his palace. There were lakes there in the garden and beautiful trees. And he said, Sita, 10 crores of Rakshasis and 22 more is the number of subjects whom I rule. I have 1,000 just to attend to my wants. I leave all this at your dear feet. You have become more dear to me than my very life. There are thousands of beautiful women in my harem, but not one of them is fit enough even to touch your feet. Listen to my plea of love and accept me. This city of mine is inaccessible even to Indra. It is surrounded by the sea which is 100 yojanas in width. When you compare my wealth and my greatness with that of Rama, who is in exile, a victim of whims of a woman, a tapas when dressed in coarse cloth, a mere man whose life is so short. When you think on us both, surely you cannot still think of him. He is feeble and he is lacking in prowess. Do not waste your youth but accept me and my love. Rama can never come here and take you with him. It will be as futile as trying to tie up the wind with silken strands or like holding a smokeless flame in the naked hand. I am yet to see one who can face me in battle. Be my queen. I lay the world at your feet. I have a Vimana by name Pushpaka and it can wander in the sky. Let us go in that Vimana and travel wherever you wish and be happy. Your face like a lotus should not look faded and downcast. Sita covered her face with her dress and cried as though her heart would break. Ravana stood by and watched her for a while. He then continued, You do not seem to realize the enormous love I have for you. I have laid the world at your feet and you do not welcome it. I have placed my head at your 2 feet and you do not seem to see that I am your slave. Come, Sita, accept me and my love. Have you heard of Ravana placing his head at the feet of anyone, least of all a woman? And yet I am doing it since I love you. Consider me as your slave. You will be mine very soon. Ravana was assured that someday Sita would become his. He had to wait and convince her, and that was all. She had been listening to his words and she spoke to him. You know nothing about my Rama, and that is why you dare to talk so despairingly of him. He is the image of Dharma and he is truth personified. He has a brother by name Lakshmana, and these two will one day come to this city you are bragging about and kill you. Even as Kara was killed, you will also be slain. You have touched me with your sinful hands, and Rama will punish you for it. The best of warriors is like a snake in the presence of my husband, who will be Garuda to them. His arrows will one day drink your blood, and the earth will be drenched with it. You tell me that you are more powerful than the Devas and the Dhanavas, but nothing to me. My Rama is sure to destroy you and your entire city along with you. You call yourself brave, and yet you have taken me away from the ashrama when Rama was not there. You are a thief, and that is why I am here. You are not a hero. I think you are the greatest coward that ever has been born, since you are a thief. Considering how you have behaved with me, how can you think so highly of yourself? Your end has come, and that is the reason why you have dared to steal me and bring me here. Ravana was nettled by the sneer in her voice and her words. He said, I am not impressed in the least by your words. I will give you 12 months to consider my proposal. If within that time you agree to be mine, you will be queen of the entire world. If you refuse, my kitchen will take care of you. Your delicate flesh will be cut up into small pieces and will be served to me for my morning meal. Ravana stormed out of the place and his lips were throbbing with anger and humiliation. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane. Om Shri Ramar Pranamastu.